don't remember. No one knows just how I feel. And I know that my time is coming soon. It's been so long, oh, such a long time since I've lived with peace and rest. Now I am here, my destination. I guess things work for the best. laugh at him in mockery and beat him till he bleeds. They nail him to the rugged cross and raise him. Yeah, they raise him up next to me. My time has come. I'm slowly fading, but I deserve what I receive. Jesus, when you are in your kingdom, could you please remember me? And he looks at me, still holding on, and tears fall from his eyes. He says, I tell the truth today. You will live with me in paradise. Yeah, and I know that my time is coming soon. Yeah, and I know that my time is coming soon. And I know paradise is coming soon.
A little different song for us tonight. Appreciated that. Holy Week. How many of you here are old enough that you remember when Easter week was spring break for everybody? It's almost sad now that they spread it out over a month, and all the schools around here were in school this week. I think Colcord and Gentry both had planned on not having school this week until we had so many snow days. But Holy Week, I want you to think about it. Holy Week started in the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve sinned. It continued through the 10 Commandments. Holy Week continued through the 613 Commandments. Holy Week started before the night of Passover meal or Last Supper. I want you to think that night, Peter and Judas both turned on Jesus. They both turned away from him. One returned and was forgiven. One turned away and committed suicide without asking for forgiveness. A little while we'll have the Lord's Supper, and we think about Passover. Moses, who saved God's people physically from the Egyptians, all the ways up to Jesus, who saved us from our sin. This was all leading up and part of Holy Week. Traditional calendar events of this week look like Sunday, the triumphal entry. Coming into Jerusalem, what we call Palm Sunday. John 12 says they took palm branches, went out to meet him, and they kept shouting, Hosanna! Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, the King of Israel. In Luke 19, and he answered and said unto them, I tell you that if these rocks should hold, or these people should hold their peace, these stones would immediately cry out. There was a song 20 years ago okay, maybe Brian would tell me 25 or 30 years ago, the song would say, ain't no rock gonna speak in my place. How many years ago, Brian? 30? John, he just keeps calling me old tonight. I don't know what I'm going to do with him. But as he was coming in the temple, the leaders, the Pharisees, told him, have your people quit yelling. Have your people be quiet. Maybe you can come into Jerusalem without being killed. And he said, if they stay quiet, these stones will cry out. Monday, traditionally we think of cleansing the temple. In Luke 19, he went into the temple and began to throw out those who were selling. And he said, it is written, my house will be a house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. And remind you, in the temple, was there anything wrong in theory of what they were doing? People came from all different countries, all different areas, brought different money. Some of it needed to go when you travel internationally, you go to Mexico, you're going to have your US dollars changed into pesos. So was there anything wrong with what they were doing? No. And some people couldn't travel and carry their sacrifice with them. So they'd have them there for sale. But there was two things wrong. One, exorbitant profits they were making, taking advantage of people. Two, doing it in the temple. Our church is to be a house of prayer. We're to honor. Again, this church, we struggle a little bit because we don't have a youth room really. So on Wednesday night when the kids are in here running and playing, it's fun to hear them run and play. But Sunday morning, we need to remember this is our sanctuary. And it's to be a house of prayer. Tuesday, forgiveness is what is thought about. In Mark 11, Jesus replied, have faith in God, and whenever you stand praying, if you have anything against anyone, forgive him, so that your Father in heaven will also forgive your wrongdoing. Our hearts should always be right when we're praying. Just like when we do the Lord's Supper in a little while. There's something that you need to ask to be forgiven, something you need to forgive someone. Take care of that right now before you participate. Wednesday is known as Spy Wednesday. Jesus, again, is around Jerusalem teaching, talking. Again, Jesus wasn't going around being quiet, was he? He wasn't hiding from anyone. He was very, very visible, and everyone knew who he was. But in Luke 22, then Satan entered Judas, called Iscariot, who was numbered among the 12, and he went away and discussed with the chief priest and temple police how he could hand him over to them. They were glad and agreed to give him silver. So he accepted the offer and started looking for a good opportunity to betray him to them when the crowd was not present. Thursday, preparation for Passover. Then the day of unleavened bread came when Passover lamb had to be sacrificed. Jesus sent Peter and John saying, go and make preparations for us to eat the Passover. Moses, before he took the people out of Egypt, told the people to go, sacrifice a lamb, put the blood on your doorpost as a sign of your faith and obedience in God. They were told what to eat and how to eat. That tradition carries on to this day with the Jewish people. They had Seder here a couple weeks ago out at Mosaic on a Wednesday night. They celebrate and recognize that Seder or Passover, where you think about the angel of death passing over those that had the mark on their door. Passover, Lord's Supper, the Last Supper with Jesus. Then we think of the Lord's Prayer being in Matthew, but really it's in the garden. It says, he went out and made his way as usual, to the Mount of Olives, and the disciples followed him. When he had reached the place, he told them, "Pray that you may not fall into temptation." Then he withdrew from them about a stone's throw, knelt, and began to pray. "Father, if you're willing, take this cup away from me. Nevertheless, not my will, but yours be done." What a prayer reminder for all of us. Isn't that what we want? The Lord's will to be done in our lives, not ours. We would always take the easiest way out. Humans, we're weak. We don't want pain. And Jesus knew what was coming. Friday, there was an old pastor that preached a sermon on this several years ago. Now I lost my notes. I knew I should have saved it. But there was a pastor that preached on Friday. He said, "It's Friday. Peter is asleep. It's Friday. Judas has betrayed him. It's Friday. Mary is crying. Hope is lost. Death has won. It's Friday. Satan is laughing. It's Friday. Jesus is buried. It's Friday. A guard stands, or a soldier stands guard. A rock is rolled into place. It's Friday, but Sunday is coming." Tonight is a much more solemn sermon than we usually have, because what happened today is solemn. What Jesus did for us, what God sacrificed for you and for me. But the joy is Sunday's coming. And Sunday morning, we'll be excited to be here. Remind you, at 9:30, we'll have continental breakfast. 10:30, we will worship God and thank Him for what Easter is. Friday, the trial and crucifixion. Luke 22, when daylight came, the elders of the people, both the chief priests and the scribes, convened and brought him before the Sanhedrin. And they said, "If you are the Messiah, tell us." But he said to them, "If I do tell you, you won't believe. And if I ask you, you will not answer. But from now on, the Son of Man will be seated at the right hand of the power of God." And they all asked, "Are you then the Son of God?" And he said to them, "You say that I am." "Why do we need any more testimony?" they said, "since we've heard it ourselves from his mouth." They felt like they had guided Jesus to perjuring himself. He knew what he was saying and when he was going to say it. But that was the final straw for them. Later, they crucified him, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. Saturday, in Luke 23 says, "Then they went home, prepared spices and perfumes, and they rested on the Sabbath in obedience to the commandment." Then it was Sunday. Jesus raised from the dead. The angel told the woman, "Don't be afraid, because I know you are looking for Jesus who was crucified. He is not here, for he has risen, just as he said. Come and see the place where he lay. Then go quickly and tell his disciples, he has risen from the dead, and indeed he is going ahead of you to Galilee. You will see him there. Listen, I have told you so." The practice of crucifixion. We have an old rugged cross behind us, kind of reminding us that. Is one of the most famous or infamous, if you will, brutal methods of execution in history. There's all kinds of history or traditions of where it came from. A lot think it was the ancient Persians, that it was adopted by the Romans. Comes from the Latin word meaning the cross. Crucifixion was a slow, painful way to go out. The victim of the crucifixion could be tied to a wooden cross or nailed. Jesus' knees were fixed at about 45 degrees and forced him to bear his weight with his thigh. Now, often I don't think we think about the step down here on the cross. This is probably lower than it would have been. But the idea was his knees would be bent to hold himself up. How long can you bend your knees and hold yourself up? It's not ideal for carrying such a weight for a long period. Even in a few minutes, his legs would have been cramping. His feet and wrists were nailed, which made it even harder. When his legs gave away, with his hands nailed like that, his shoulders would have been dislocated. The weight of his body on his upper limbs, major muscles of his chest, causing his rib cage to be pulled upwards and out. That meant Jesus had to physically force his body as he breathed. His lungs were resting, proving the crucifixion was catastrophic. He was working as hard as he could to breathe. He could breathe in air. He couldn't exhale. He was fatigued, cramps in his legs. 6 hours on the cross, Jesus became less and less able to bear his weight, with dislocation of the shoulders and wrists. Every time he breathed, it caused excruciating pain. He was covered in blood and sweat. He was undergoing a series of catastrophic and terminal events. His blood oxygen would slowly fall. He developed low blood oxygen, made his heart beat faster and faster. He developed tachycardia. He was very dehydrated with high blood pressure, suffering from other conditions. Remember when he had the Lord's Supper? He said, "I will drink no more from this cup." They could have offered him wine, offered him something to drink, and he refused it because he had already said he would drink no more. The late stage of suffering, he got weaker. A lot of people believe he actually drowned because he could inhale and not exhale. His heart, his lungs would fill with liquid. At around 3 o'clock, he said, "Tetelestai," or in English, "It is finished." He really wasn't saying his time, his life was finished. He was saying his work was finished. He had done what God had sent him to do. His body could do no more. Now, I want you to understand, a lot of people are there days, but he had been beaten, he had been abused, he had been whipped, he had bled. A lot of TV, a lot of things show him carrying the one beam and the others carrying the cross. Truth of the matter, as heavy as those beams were, no one carried the cross. Having to carry that and go up the mountain, especially after being whipped, dehydrated, no wonder he collapsed and needed someone to help him. Why did Jesus die the way he did? It was the most humiliating way the Romans could kill him. When we gaze at the cross, we must always remember that it is us who he is replacing. Jesus bore our anguish so that we might not suffer. Jesus was cast off that we might be brought in. Jesus was punished as an enemy that we might be welcomed as a friend. Jesus surrendered to hell's worst that we might attain heaven's best. Jesus was stripped that we might be clothed. Jesus was wounded that we might be healed. Jesus was tormented that we might be comforted. Jesus was made ashamed that we might be given glory. Jesus endured darkness that we might have eternal light. Jesus cried out in pain that we might sing a new song. Jesus closed his eyes that we might receive sight. Jesus died that we might live. Brian.
Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth bread from the earth. Amen. Normally, this bread is to remember and celebrate our redemption from Egypt into the Promised Land, from slavery into freedom. Tonight, we celebrate your redemption from sin because of me. Take and eat it. This is my body, which is given for you. Do this in remembrance of me. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who creates the fruit of the vine.
Amen.
Amen. Normally, the wine allows us to remember and celebrate the blood of the Lamb spread on the doorposts of our ancestors. But tonight, likewise, this is my blood of the new covenant, shed for you and for many for the forgiveness of sins. Drink it, all of you, in remembrance of me.